So I accidentally...
Yes.
accidentally is not the proper word. Inadvertently read 3 books in a row about incest.
Oh.
Brother-sister incest. For you folks who don't want any spoilers, because 2 of these books are newer, and the incest is a surprise, you might want to tune out for the next minute or 2. The first book I read later by Stephen King as your recommendation. Boy, howdy, I really liked that book until the end.
Yeah?
And then shit the bed for me because one, spoiler, incest plot. The kid found out his dad they didn't know about was his uncle. So there was some brother-sister boning. And the only problem I really had with the book was I thought it was going to go into like a cool paranormal detective like story. Like the kid was going to be solving murders with this crazy lady. And it didn't go that route. It went like a hard Stephen King route. So I still gave it like a 4. Like I liked it. Ashley did not like that book. I haven't discussed it with him yet, but I personally thought it was all right. I just didn't like the ending so much.
But did you like? Because I think his main thing was like the characters. He didn't like the characters.
I didn't really have a problem with the characters. They all were fine with me. I'm not as picky as him with characters, I don't think. The second book, this was one that Ashley, it was like a TikTok, or no, I think he sent it to me because he wanted us to do it for the podcast, but then he couldn't find a copy or something. I got a Kindle copy. He doesn't have a Kindle. It's called Gone to See the Riverman. I forget the name of the author, but he's like a splatter porn gore author or something. But this was supposed to be the most disturbing book ever written. So I was like, all right, I'll give it a shot.
That's like the 3rd most disturbing book ever written that you've read.
Yeah, it's and so far not the most disturbing. It was an interesting plot. The main problem with this is the protagonist is so unlikable that you don't care. Like the plot is it's a woman and like a 40-year-old woman who has a handicapped sister she's taking care of. And she has one of them like pen pal things with a serial killer that she's like in love with, you know, the whole kind of groupie thing or something. And he sends her on a quest to get like this key in his shack he had, and he has to meet somebody called the Riverman. The plot was actually pretty cool. Huge incest angle. Spoiler. This one you can see coming from a mile away, so it's not really much of a spoiler. But apparently this girl, when she was a teenager, was just raping her brother. And she thought it was fine, and then she becomes the most unlikable character I've ever read in a book, and I've read some shit characters in books. And then the ending, too. Like, she got her comeuppance, even though she's supposed to be the one you want to root for. The only one that I found likable in this whole story, really, was the murdering, raping serial killer guy. So I don't know how to feel about that. But that book, I wouldn't recommend it. I think I gave it 3 stars because I liked... some of the imagery, but it was very repetitive, a lot of the phrasing and descriptions, and I don't know, it just, if I was a splatter porn kind of guy, like more into just like, oh, I just want to be grossed out, maybe I would have found that a little more entertaining than I did. Oh, here's a surprise. This 3rd book was not inadvertent, nor was it accidental, me reading about incest, because that's the plot of this book, so I already went into it knowing. It's called Outer Dark, and it is about, so far, this Appalachian brother and sister, they live in the Appalachian Mountains, and they have a baby. The guy abandons the babies. Here's where the surprise comes in, Spencer. So far, I'm only like a couple chapters in, but so far I'm really liking the book.
I was going to say, I was kind of surprised because you posted a thing about this in a literature group.
Oh, so you already know the surprise.
Well, I don't know about yeah, I think I know the surprise.
But I'm really liking the book. The writing style fits. I like the prose. Cormac McCarthy.
He that shall not be named.
And it has touches of the language used in Blood Meridian, but it's readable. It's not fucking, it's not the shit that maybe if I read, because this is like his 2nd novel, so I'm thinking maybe if I jump back in time and read some of his earlier works, and then go back to Blood Meridian, maybe it'll be a little better. Because I started, the first book I read of his was The Road, which is more like the book I'm reading now, so... I like them a little watered down.
And The Road's not that big, right?
No. So, and then neither is this book. It's only like 200-something pages. So, I think I like Cormac McCarthy more watered down. Blood Meridian, he was just full literary, highfalutin nonsense.
Say at that point in time, he was probably smelling his own farts as he was doing it.
Yeah, he's at the top of his fame probably, and yeah, smelling his own farts.
Just imagine what those 2 new books are going to be like.
Oh, old man stale cigar farts.
Just mad about how like the young generation is just, you know.
Yeah.
Happy.
In other news, you recently tackled, tackling is a very strong word because this is nothing to tackle. It's easy read.
No.
You read The Stranger by Albert Camus. We briefly talked about this off air. Last time you were here, I think we discussed some of the merits of thinking the character's autistic. But you finally got to the end. Did you see like kind of the ridiculous nature of, even though he's clearly guilty of killing a guy, they were charging him with murder more so based on how he treated his mother, I guess. Like how his mother's death affected him or didn't affect him, and that's how they made their basis for this trial.
I think what they were trying to do is like set a pattern of like there's something wrong with this guy.
Yeah, he's not normal.
Yeah, he shouldn't be out. Like, you know what I mean?
Well, that's the whole thing about the book is he's the stranger because he's different than everybody else. He doesn't fall into line, and that's why they're judging him so harshly. Because back then, if you just killed a guy, it's not like because the guy had a knife, so it's not like killing a guy now.
And I was kind of surprised because because the book it takes part in like France, some place like
Morocco or France, somewhere where they speak French.
Yeah,
not necessarily France. I think it's like I want to say like Morocco or somewhere.
I was kind of surprised that, especially considering the time period that it was written in, that anybody cared that he killed an Arab person. Like, you know what I mean? Like,
yeah,
I'm surprised anybody gave a shit.
Well, that's why I said if it's in Morocco though, that's like Northern Africa, I think.
Yeah.
So that would be like that. There would
they would be the majority.
Yeah. So I'm assuming, like I said, I don't remember if it was set in Morocco or not. It's been a while since I read that.
It was beaches.
Also, that book was an interesting character study, but doesn't it change your opinion of the outcome when you just think, oh, that character's autistic?
Yeah. Yeah.
Completely shifts the way you perceive that book.
Yeah. Like, I don't know. Before then, like, people reading this when it first came out, like
before they knew what autism was.
Yeah, and
just thought the guy was like a little weird.
Yeah, and it's just like I don't understand. Like, is it just trying? Is the book's purpose is just basically like nothing matters?
Well,
whatever you do or don't do doesn't matter.
Camus was a famous nihilist. He was a French philosopher first and foremost, I believe, where nihilism is the his bread and butter. So he beat you over the head with it at the end because I think even what's his name, Marceau or something, Maricout,
something like that. Yeah,
I fucking don't remember. As soon as we fucking hit stop on here, I'm gonna remember. It's gonna bug the shit out of me. I think even in the end, when like the preacher's like giving him a sermon or something, he just wants the guy to go away. He has like an outburst, and I think he gives like a big dose of nihilism, and then he's just like nothing matters, and I'm just like, all right, maybe that was cool back then. Before people were really talking about that kind of stuff, like publicly, but
I did kind of feel for the character because the guy's just sitting on death row and he just wants to be like left alone.
Yeah,
and this guy just keeps on nagging him and it's just leave me the fuck alone. Like,
imagine like especially back then, like because he wasn't religious, I don't think he believed in God at all, and this guy's just hammering him with, no, you don't want to go to hell, repent, dude, and it's like fuck off, guy, like, just leave me alone. Like I felt for the guy. Especially because like he was clearly autistic, so he knew what he was doing, but he didn't, you know?
Well, even like take that out of it. If you're just reading it from the time that it was written, it's not like the guy's an evil guy.
No.
He's actually like I don't know if normal because of the way he acts and stuff, but like, you know, he works at his job, you know, he had a girlfriend who was about to get married. If it wasn't for the fact that his buddy got stabbed and jumped up, you know,
he wouldn't even shot that guy.
Yeah, which is also kind of his fault because he wrote the guy's letter for him. So
yeah.
I mean, there's that that irony there. But
it was one of those things where it was a character who just goes about his day-to-day life, and he's just trying to, like most of us, just trying to do what he feels is right. Without really trying to he doesn't want to step on people's toes. He doesn't want to hurt people. But you know, he was defending his buddy, and in his mind, that was the right thing to do. But then, obviously, that went haywire. But he was just one of those things. Like I think the girl's like, "You want to get married or something?" He's like, "Sure." Like that was his life attitude. He's like, "Okay, let's
even
whatever."
Like she was like, "Do you love me?" He's like, "I don't know. You want to get married?" Sure.
Yeah, he was riding the wave of life, and then eventually that wave broke, and that was his demise. Yeah, it crashed. Which how you know that happens.
But like when we were talking off air, I mentioned it's like a very good like character study.
Yeah.
I don't know why it won a Nobel Peace Prize, like
literature.
But I'm just saying, like,
well, Camus won. I don't know if he won specifically for The Stranger. It was probably like the just Because I think most of those Nobel Prizes in literature are for
like lifetime or like, you know, like body of work.
Like even like Hemingway, he got it for Old Man in the Sea, but it was like his life's work. Like Faulkner, all of them. I think it was always like kind of your life's accomplishments, and then they just maybe pick out one. And I don't even think The Stranger was the one that they would have picked for that. I'm not too familiar with Camus' work. I didn't even know how to pronounce his name until fucking British ass corrected me that one time. I thought because it's spelled Camus.
Yeah.
But I didn't know he was French. I didn't know shit about the guy. I felt like a big dummy, so I read the book, and now I'm not as big of a dummy. Though I would be interested to read it in French if I knew French, because I think that would change the whole meaning of the book, honestly. That's always a hard reading, because I do that with a lot of the Japanese literature I read. I'm like, am I getting the right meaning from this, though? Because I feel like things just don't translate. Because you could translate the words and the definitions of things, but you can't translate the feelings always, because they're, you know, sometimes they just don't translate. So,
especially when you're not familiar enough with that culture.
Yeah, well, like
at least with like Japanese and Chinese stuff, we are nowhere near as experts, but we are familiar with certain customs and pop culture and things from over there. So like we can maybe, you know, have like get a little bit more of the references or understand like how things might like work and stuff over there.
Well, I mean, going with The Stranger, we both pretty much right off the bat guessed the character was autistic. Like what, a couple chapters in, you're like, this guy's a little off, and then by like you see how he reacts to grief and stuff, which is pretty much non-reaction. You're like, this guy's probably like autistic. But even take away the time period where they didn't know about that stuff. Just go into reading it from like the French you know, if it was just in France, that might just translate different, because I don't know how fucking people acted in France in the 20s, 30s, and 40s.
Right.
Maybe his behavior was
probably like assholes, but besides the point.
Yeah, but I'm saying like maybe his behavior was more justified. I don't remember if this book took place before or after World War II. Surely after World War I, though. So I would imagine people were more stoic and stuff and expressed their feelings a lot less back then anyway. So he might have come off as more normal in that regard. It's just like the personal family matters, like of his mother dying and him not reacting. People are like, what the fuck? Now that's not normal. But I don't know if that would, like, I feel like in the original French version, that would probably hit you a lot harder than what we got. We probably just got he's just clearly autistic. So when do I introduce the intro music? I don't. I'll just throw it in sometime.
Ooh.
Snap. You are listening to the Drunken Pen Writing Podcast. I'm your host, Caleb James. With me today, Spencer, the Panama Prickly Pear Church.
I'm prickly.
Prickly. I don't like prickly pears. They taste kind of like cucumber. At least the ones I've had. I don't know if they grow them in Panama. Probably not. But they do grow them in South American countries. I know that because when I bought them, they said South America on them.
Makes all the sense.
Not Brazil. Maybe Mexico? I don't know. Today, we're asking questions, man. You know what that means, Spencer?
No.
Neither do I. No, we are talking about things, man, and stuff, and words that we're going to say out of our mouths. So one thing that all writers do, and I don't believe we covered this on the podcast, is the importance of asking questions in your work. And I think the very first question, the most important question, which I feel a lot of people should start asking themselves, why am I writing this story? That's the first and foremost thing you should be asking yourself, because if you don't have an answer to why you're writing the story, it's probably not going to be a good story, I would imagine. Because I feel like a lot of people just feel the need to write something, to have content. And we've fallen in this trap before, I'm pretty sure, for DPW. It's like, I just got to get something out there. I'm just going to slap some shit on pen and paper. Well, you know, what purpose does that serve, though? I mean, it's like when we were doing it, to excuse our stupidness, we were trying to just build up our writing skills. And that's fine.
Yeah.
But that was the purpose. Why am I writing the story? To build up my writing skills. Content was just a result of that. But a lot of people, I'm going to write a novel. But why are you writing that novel? What is your purpose for writing the novel? So do you ever ask yourself that question when you're working on something? You're going to start something. It's like, why? You probably do subconsciously. Like I would imagine you'd have a goal. Like, why is this story coming to be? Am I writing this to put it in a collection? Am I writing this to be a standalone piece that I want people to read? Do I want people to feel this specific way about this story? Like, you should go into your work with a reason why you're writing it. If you're just doing it to do it, that's almost like just fucking Bob Ross just painting happy trees. Might not be anything wrong with that, but without purpose, you usually don't have direction, I feel. So I think that's the most important question people need to ask themselves when they're writing something. And that goes probably for anything. Like if you're an artist or something like that, it's like you need a reason. Like even if it's like, oh, I'm writing this because I want to sell it to make money.
Yeah.
I am writing this because I want people to read it, and I want them to read it because I think it's a good story to tell. Like it doesn't have to be like this big complex, deeply emotional answer. It's just, you need a reason why you're writing it.
I mean, it could even be like, I've had this idea in my head for like 3 years now, and I need it out of there.
There you go.
I need to make room for other things.
That's a good reason as any. Another question, and this goes more into the actual story itself, and we're skipping some spaces here because there's definitely a lot in between.
We're jumping around here.
Yeah, we're just jumping around because I don't have a, I don't have a list or anything.
An article or anything.
Just off the top of the dome piece, how we do. Another big important question, which you could probably preface this with, like, why does my character exist? Because you always think, what's your character motivation? But, like, why is your character in this story? Why is the story about this character specifically, or characters? That's before you even start writing. So why these characters? And then, okay, the reason I have these characters is because I wanted a story set in the 80s, and these are the kids who grew up in the 80s, so I'm telling that story. Okay, so I got that base down. Why are these characters doing what they're doing? Or what's going to lead up to them doing what they're doing? So you have to get those bricks into, place. And then that's when you start getting into the motivations of your characters. Okay, why is my character acting this way? Because he wants to... Like, why does my character have a shitty job? Because he wants to buy a car to impress a girl in high school. Okay. And then that'll lead you to the next adventure. Maybe he gets that goal and is like, okay, the girl still doesn't like him. Oh, shit, who's that? Spam likely. Most likely, yeah. And then you can really go down that wormhole. Fucking asshole. I got 30 of those yesterday. It's like just back-to-back fucking spam. I just blocked them all.
What I hate, have you been getting, like, spam texts?
Yeah, I've been getting those too.
Fucking bullshit.
We gotta watch. There's a new one out. This for the listeners here. A little bit of advice. Apparently, they're texting you from your own number now, making you think like something's fucked up. And if you answer it, I think something bad happens. I don't know. I didn't look into it, but I have not got that yet. But anyway, you can go down a wormhole of why my characters are doing this, what's their motivation. But I think the most important thing is, why am I writing this story? Why does this story exist, and why do these characters exist in the story? Once you set those, then you can go into the other stuff. Do you think about any of that stuff when you go into writing? Because usually, we always like to joke, where do you get your ideas from? Well, there's like a base there somewhere. Like, why is this important to me? That's another question. Why is this important for me to write? Why this story specifically? So have you, like, specifically now, even with like the story you're currently writing, have you thought of any of these things? Like, have you questioned some of these things?
Like I said, this current project is probably what I've done the most, because it's the most probably like at home kind of dealing with like personal like things, but amping it up on a different like putting like sci-fi twist to it and stuff like that. But like the core of it is kind of things to struggle with like on a daily basis, with that I also hope will, if I ever get it done and out, that other people will connect to, because I feel like it's very relatable things that that like the audience will hopefully connect to when they read it. Other times it's normally either like I come up with like an idea, and then I think of the characters to like best fit that idea, or like you come up with the characters first, and then you kind of come up with the story to go like, what kind of story do you need for this character to work best? Like, you know what I mean?
Right.
And then maybe as when you're trying to figure that out, I might kind of stumble across something, like I could throw that in, or like that might be a thing that has like a little bit of meaning to it, or something that I might be trying to say or specifically put across or something like that. But I don't know if it ever been like the first head-on thing, like, you know what I mean? Like we said before, like a lot of times like an idea for something would just like poop like just popping, you know, in my head out of nowhere.
Mhm.
So it's not like there was like a lot of thought beforehand going into there. And I mean, like sometimes like I'll be like, I'm just if I'm trying to write like a certain scene, I'm like, you know, I'm trying to make a cousin is like, what do I need to do to build like the suspense or to like, if I'm trying to get a certain like feel or accomplish a certain thing, I'll try to think of like what's the best course of action, for that. What's the best way I can accomplish that?
Well, like the novel I'm writing now started in probably the most interesting way I've gotten into writing something, I think, at least in recent memory. Because the story, which obviously, you know, over time it's changing and growing and expanding, and but the initial plot is like a ancient music box that plays a song that when people hear it, it makes them either want to or kill themselves. And what brought that on was I was down here one night and I was probably procrastinating on writing something, honestly. And I was just playing like music on my phone or something, and a really depressing song came on. It's not like super depressing, but it's like one of those older emo songs. It was fucking nutsack. I always forget the name of that band. I can't for the life of me remember the name of that song now, but it was like a really sad song about suicide. And when I was listening to it, for whatever reason, I just pictured like Mindy coming downstairs and hearing me, like, you know, walked in on me listening to that sad, sad song. And the phrase, why, like the question, why are you listening to those suicide songs, or like those sad suicide songs, something along those lines? And that just sparked something in my head. And then that's when everything blew up, like, oh, what if it was like a music box? I was like, but why? The first thing I asked myself is, why? Well, first thing I asked is how I could create a story around just that little idea, that one phrase.
Yeah.
But then, you know, why are you listening to those suicide songs? And I was thinking, well, why would somebody be listening to those? Like, you know, I just was happened to stumble upon it. And then I was like, oh, this song, I kind of like this song. But then when you listen to the meaning, I was like, ooh, that's depressing. I was like, well, there are people who listen to depressing music. Why? And then I started asking myself, well, what would the character be like who listened to those songs? And then I was thinking, I bet you that character wouldn't be outwardly depressed. Like, people wouldn't think that character was necessarily depressed. And, you know, because most people who are really depressed don't necessarily show it.
Yeah.
So I was like, that's an interesting way to look at it. Because this character is not ashamed of listening to this music. And what I eventually wrote in the story is that he kind of just jokes it off or whatever. But I was thinking, so why is he listening to this music? And then I was thinking, well, where can this go? What kind of story could I tell out of this? And I was like, I would like to touch on the aspects of grief, the aspects of depression. I would like to touch on some themes of maybe suicide, but I would like to do it in a way that would be fun. How the hell would you do that? Yeah. So I asked myself, how the hell can I make a fucking story about suicide
So basically we're just like, what would Neil Gaiman do?
Pretty much.
That's what we should get. We should get some, what would it be for like the what would Neil Gaiman do bracelets that we can just keep on our wrist as we write?
I like that. What would Neil do? Yeah, so I was thinking, like, how can you tackle such a heavy topic as suicide, but do it in a way that would be fun? So I was like, well, the characters could be kind of snarky and sarcastic. But then have moments of realism where it's like, oh, I want the depressing nature of the story to be looming overhead, but not all encompassing. I don't want it to just, because I've read a lot of literary fiction where you're just like, oh my God, I want to kill myself after reading this. Like, why is this so depressing? So I wanted it to be there, but it only comes in, and you know how depression does for a lot of people, creeps in when you're not really, like, it just slowly creeps in like a fog, and it comes in so slowly that by the time you realize you were in the midst of depression, it's hard to get out of it because it engulfed you. So I want the story to have moments where that happens, but it's not just like, oh my God, a baby died, I'm depressed. Like, I didn't want that. This slow, encompassing depression, and then
you wanted to show, not tell.
Yeah, and then what also I wanted to do, which it's hard without being Haruki Murakami, because I keep fucking wanting to add these weird things into the story, but I wanted to be able to have a ray of light that pierces that darkness of depression, opens it up, and then you get into some fun stuff. And then obviously the depression, like I said, it's always going to be there. It's always going to be lingering. It's going to come in when you least expect it in the story. But it's going to go kind of hard fantasy with it. Think of like The Hike, and you're going to have like this adventure that may or may not even be real, but you're going to go for the ride with these characters. And then in the end, that's where I'm going to touch on the aspects of grief, where maybe you have to learn to accept that this person's gone. Maybe the suicide was either unavoidable or you can't bring that person back. And then you just have to learn to accept. So that's my why for the story. That's why I'm writing the story, because I think reading things like that can help people.
Yeah. Well, I mean, that's kind of, it's so like, I didn't bring it up earlier, but like, to the question of like, why are you listening to this sad music? Because I'm going through something, and it helps. It makes you feel better. Like,
to know other people feel like that.
Yeah, and like, the same with like one of my go-to movies, and no surprise to this, is Cloaks 2.
Yeah.
It's just, if it's on, whatever it's at, I'm probably watching it. If I don't got nothing to do, I'm watching to wherever. It could be 5 minutes in, and it could be 5 minutes left. I'm watching that bitch, because like, it no matter what, even if I'm already feeling good, it makes me feel better. Like, it's just a good, fun movie. And, like a lot of people always, give like ICP like a lot of shit. But that's like a lot of what their music does. Like, it helps.
It's an outlet.
Yeah, and it helps a lot of people who listen to their stuff, and it makes like it, and there's like a community there to people who might not have friends, but like they know that there's somebody else that is kind of going through the same stuff, that's listening to the same things. And then you meet him at a concert, and you might only meet that fucker one time for a few hours, but goddamn, was that a lot of fun. And you're fucking dripping in Fago at the end of it. Like, but you won't
hopefully that's all you're dripping in.
Yeah, right. Yeah, so I don't even know where we were going with that. I think we kind of got off the rails a little bit, but yeah, like I think like that can kind of help,
Well, I think, like you said, ICP, I think certain things, because that's a community, like you brought up the community, and people like to make fun of juggalos and stuff, but it is a group of people that, they can share this love of something, and I think that's very important. And when it comes to things like depression, because like the thing that sucks about depression is you just feel like you're alone. You feel like you're the only one. You're not, you just feel like that. And that's why things like those kind of songs, like I said about the suicide songs, like they can actually make you feel better because you're not alone. And then like different forms of media, like they can make life more bearable. And I know people like to shit on Marvel movies and stuff, but if it makes your life more bearable, and it allows you to escape your life for a little bit, because a lot of people are living through hell all the time. And if it could get you away from that for just a little bit, there's a lot of value in that.
Like, I mean, we make fun of different things and stuff like that, but like, nobody should have a say on what somebody else enjoys, as long as it's not hurting anybody else.
Exactly.
Like, if you like going around smacking babies because it gives you the giggles, like, no, you can't be doing that.
Probably shouldn't be doing that.
But yeah, and just to go back like on the depressed thing, like it's also tough too, because it's like, how you were talking about it slowly creeps in, and then like whenever you do kind of realize that depending on the situation, a lot of times people are just like, fuck it, I don't even care. Like they don't even want to, like, whatever, if it's exercising or medication or trying to get,
it's the nihilism. Why even bother?
Yeah, it's just like I don't even care. Like,
and another reason why I write, and why I'm focusing on stories like my novel that is gonna have like acceptance be a major theme at the end, is because like I feel people, because at least in my life, you're always kind of searching for those little glories, just like those little things where,
just the small wins, the little victories.
Just like those, like Kevin with the it was actually one of the most touching moments of The Office. It made me tear up a little bit. Was I think it was about the parking spots. Like they were trying to get the parking spot. And then he like goes on about like, things have been really hard lately. I think his girlfriend or fiance left him and stuff. And then he's like almost cries. He almost breaks, and he's like, it's just good to win one, you know? But people need that. And I think if you can give that to them through fiction, you can have something like they can experience these little glories through someone else, because you don't always get to have those. Like those, it's not easy for everybody to get their wins, because sometimes you live in such a way where that's just not a possibility all the time. But when you can read stuff that can lift your spirit, and you're like, if that character can do it and go through all this, maybe I can,
Especially like if like you were talking about, like you're trying to take those serious topics and not only take a serious look and examine those things, but you also want to flip it over and have like a fun, like, so like it can also like draw that person out, like, you know what, this is better than what I'm feeling right now. And what's really sucks sometimes is for like those people who have the depression, and it's a chemical thing.
Yeah,
that's
you can't
the
do anything
worst.
about
You
it.
can't even do
Take
anything.
pills and become a zombie or something. Yeah, that's rough. Because a lot of people, like, you know, some people just get seasonal depression. Some people are just going through a hard time. I've been there myself many times. But then there's like some people, like it's just like a lingering thing that, you know, they try to shake off. Sometimes they do better than other times, but it's so easy to fall right back down into that fucking pit of despair. And a lot of times what makes those people even more depressed is knowing that they're depressed. Like they know that there's things they could do, you know, supposedly that's going to help them get out of this funk, because that's what a lot of people, oh, you're just in a funk. But it's not a funk, because if it's a chemical thing in your brain, like that's just your body fucking with you. Like it's like any other medical issue. It's not your fault, you know? You can exercise and eat right and do all this shit, but if your brain's just like, nah, we're a little screwed up.
Yeah,
like,
if it's just wired in a weird way, it's nothing you can do about it.
But anyway, without keep going down into that world.
Any other questions?
Any other questions? We're a lot deeper in that topic than I expected, but how can we go back out?
Though that I feel is appropriate though, because I feel like a lot of, especially aspiring writers, struggle with that kind of stuff.
Yeah.
You stay on that a blank page that you can't get anything on. You're like, why fucking bother?
Mm-hmm.
And you know what I mean? And so I feel like discussing that topic is not completely out of, you know.
Well, that's also why I think it's important to ask yourself the why of why you're writing that story too. Because if you're sitting down to the blank page and you don't have any ideas, the first thing you need to ask is, why am I writing in the first place? And that won't even be story related. That's just going to be like, why do I need to write? Do I need to write, or do I want to write? Why do I want to be a writer? And I mean, some people might realize, maybe I don't actually want to be a writer. Maybe it's just a fun hobby, but I want to do something else. And they can pursue that if they're honest with themselves. Other people, they might go, you know what? I'm just writing because I want to make money. And that's going to be a tough fucking pill to swallow when you realize I'm not doing this because I really enjoy it. I just want to make money, and maybe I'm naturally good at writing. I'm talented, but I don't actually want to be a writer. Then it's almost like, you know, the fucking 7-footer who is really athletic and he doesn't want to play basketball. It's like, well, I could play basketball and make a lot of money, but am I going to be happy? You get that a lot with the celebrities who they chase fame, but then when they finally get it, they're like, fuck, now I'm slapping Chris Rock on stage. I'm not like, I'm miserable. My home life sucks. Like, it's just, you know, it doesn't all go well. But then like the other thing is though, if you could tell yourself, it's like, well, why am I writing this? Is it to be famous? Is it to make money? Is it because, you know, it's just a fun hobby? Or is it because I feel like I have something to say and my brain's not going to shut up until I say it? If I feel like I have something worthwhile to give people, like that's why I write.
And it can even just be even like, you know, like I want to write like a fun adventure story.
Yeah.
That, you know, is not very deep. It's just going to be a lot of action. It's going to be a lot of like quips and whatever. But it's just like, you know what? I want to write like a fun action story.
That people can read and escape. Like they can enjoy it, and like you said, fun. Like, you know, the old Conan stories and stuff.
That doesn't necessarily have to have a deeper meaning, but it's still a good story that people will enjoy.
Exactly. Going back to the cold open, I would take any day something like Lord of the Rings over Cormac McCarthy's The Road. I like both things, but one's super depressing, and then same with The Stranger. One's just like, oh, why bother? What's the point of life? There's no hope. I don't want that to be my message. Like, I like reading that kind of stuff from time to time, but that's not going to make my life better. But reading about somebody, you know, where evil and good are black and white. One could be evil, one could be good. They fight each other and only one can come out on top. I want good to win. And that's like the Lord of the Rings. So you go through the story of these ups and downs of these characters, and then, you know, even though you know it's going to end happily ever after, that's what you want.
It's the journey.
It's the journey, and it's fun, and it lets you escape your life, and it's a good time. But you can have The Road where it's bleak, and like babies are getting eaten, and everybody dies, and you're like, why did I even read that? Like Blood Meridian we talked about. Like, why? Like, I understand the importance of it, but that's not the kind of stuff I'm going to enjoy.
Or that's like where you brought up earlier, The Hike. we've always talking about the hike ever since we read it a couple years ago. But there were times like whenever I'd get done reading that book, and like I would like. It'd almost be like a chemical change. Like I would be like excited like a little bit, or have like a little like, because like especially depending on where you might have stopped reading, at that time.
Got an endorphin
because like
boost.
There's a lot of crazy shit going on. There's like a lot of cool things going on, and it's just it's a roller coaster of a ride that like did a good job of making you feel things, and
I like feeling things sometimes. I like feeling good, happy things. Especially as I get older. When I was in my 20s,
I'm just a cold-hearted bastard.
really was. Because one, you're immortal.
Yeah.
Apparently, because when you're in your 20s, teenagers and 20s, you're not gonna die.
You were jumping off of roofs and stuff with like, could you imagine?
Like not one-story roofs, like multi-story buildings. Yeah,
you can barely go off the fucking curb of a sidewalk without blowing out your kneecaps now.
I was a wild man, folks. I really was. I was jumping off all kinds of pavilions and shit. But yeah, because you can't have a death wish when you're never going to die, man. We were just living on the edge, and we didn't even know it. We were just cocky and stupid. Our brains weren't fully developed, and we just thought we had the world by the tits, even though we clearly didn't. We were fucking idiots. This could have been better for our nostalgia episode, but it was because we both had what I would say the poor man's journey.
Yeah,
we didn't go to Ivy League school. We didn't even go to regular colleges.
I mean, I think you could probably even still say that we're on the poor man's journey.
Yeah, we weren't living high in the hog in our 20s, let alone even now. But we were living, I guess, like, I don't know, worked all the time, but we were doing stupid shit and just trying to make our way in this world. And but in my 20s, I read a lot of depressing stuff because one, I was depressed a lot of the time, but two, I just kind of felt like, what's the point of everything? And like the nihilism I feel hits you when you're younger, but now that I'm older, it's like there's so much bad in the world. I just want to be able to make good. Like I want things to be good. I just want to enjoy life. I don't want it because it's not going to last forever. Yeah. And you realize that as you get older, and we're only in our 30s, but like I'd imagine that trend's just going to go up as we get older and hopefully appreciate life more.
Well, just like you said, like, oh, well, we're in our 30s, but like, how many people did we go to school with that aren't around anymore?
I know. I would think about that all the time because like I always see it pop up on like Facebook. It's like, oh, this person passed away. And I'm like, holy shit, he was 2 years younger than me. And then it's just like, that's rough. And it just makes you think, it's like, so why would I want to spend my time thinking negative things and inviting in fucking negative fiction and watching depressing movies and just always being in a bad mood and making up? Because that's another thing. I'm sure you work with people like this who they're just always in a bad mood and bring everyone down. And it's like, no matter how bad of a day I'm having, I always make it a point not to take it out on other people. Sometimes you'll snap. I've done that many times, but apologize or just like, let it go. Like, don't fucking be those people who just, I'm going to be miserable and make everybody miserable and snap all day, every day.
No, see, what I do is that you can normally tell when I'm not in a good mood because I'm not talking to you.
Yeah.
I'm not trying to be rude or angry. I'm just not in the mood, and I don't want to really be around you. I will talk to you if I have to, if it's work related, but I'm not like cracking jokes. I will keep that inside of me.
I will internalize it until it festers into a heart attack.
Yes. Or instead of like, just like snapping at people all day, it will just 3 months from now.
You blow up.
Yeah, it's just going to be a blow up. Which isn't the healthiest thing to do, but that's, that's just what I do.
Was that from Clerks 1? They were talking about that, or maybe I'm just thinking of something completely different. But, no, what the fuck was that from? Anger Management, of all movies, with Adam Sandler, because Jack Nicholson tells him, goddamn span call again.
Look at that.
SNIB Outdoor Power Sale Service. That's weird. That's not real.
Right?
No, it was Jack Nicholson's character. I forget what the exact conversation was, but he was telling Adam Sandler, I think it might be when we first met him, that it was after he goes to the anger management, and he keeps asking him, who are you? And he's like, oh, I'm whatever his name was. And no, who are you? And he just couldn't answer it, and he started getting mad, and he's like, look, you're the guy there's the guy who goes into the fucking store and yells at the clerk and throws the eggs and breaks shit and then leaves and storms out, has a big outburst. Well, you're the guy who internalizes it all and then one day shoots up the fucking place. Like, that's who you are.
Yeah.
So don't be that guy if you can. I try to get my rage out in healthy ways now, which I did not do in my 20s. In my 20s, I was the typical white guy punching holes in walls. I was an idiot. But now I try to if I'm having a bad day, and I'll either try to write or fucking play video game or work out or whatever it is. You always ask me why I work out so much. It's because I just have the rage demons of my youth that never went away, and so I just fight them constantly. And I'm like, if I'm very exhausted, the rage demons, they just won't bother fighting with me that day. They'll leave me alone. But on the day, like if I go stretch without going to the gym, like when I hurt my back, I couldn't really work out hard. I was fucking furious. I was so mad all the time. I was just like, I'm gonna sit in the basement and just cry, but no tears come out because I'm dry on the inside. I'm just angry. But I don't like being like that anymore. I like being happy, so I try to do it. I think that's why I've been reading so much. I've been reading a lot because I enjoy reading and it takes my mind off of things. And if you take one thing away from this episode, we went completely off topic, but it's do things that you enjoy as long as they don't hurt other people. And I also would throw in, don't give a fuck about what other people think, because I feel like a lot of people, their stress comes from other people.
If I could go back in time and talk to like early high school me, like I just
do your own thing.
Yeah, because like I was always like in high school, I was always very like I was like not like I wasn't the greatest student, but I was probably like the ideal student of like I sat there, I wasn't cracking around wise, I did my work. If a teacher was fucking giving you shit for no good reason, you just sat there and take it. But like no, like now I'd be like, no, you give it back to that teacher, because there ain't nothing they can do to you as long as you don't threaten them or do something that gets you expelled from school. They're like there's nothing that they can do to you. Like,
this is gonna sound real douchey, but when I was young, I'm sure you had this too. I always had people fucking with me. Just like certain people, very specific people, probably people who were living a worse home life than I was at the time. So they were always fucking bullying me and shit. And it was only certain grades. Like once I got to high school, that all stopped because people I hung out with and stuff, it's just like, oh, he's all right. But then like especially middle school, like I'd always get bullied and stuff. And my biggest fear, and I don't know why, was like even if people were like physically like pushing me or something, was I don't want to fuck them up, because then I'm like, but I didn't care about getting in trouble. I just didn't want to hurt them. Like, because I wasn't a huge kid, but for a long time, because I've always been like, fuck, I'm 5'10", and a half, but I always been this height since like, I swear, like the 4th grade.
Same with me.
So I was like taller than everyone in middle school.
Like I got so tall
and then just
before
stopped.
Everybody, and then I stopped growing.
Yeah. So I was like,
I was a monster among men for a couple years, and then it was just normal.
And I was always a little bigger. I always did like sports and stuff, and so like people would fuck with me. Always worries like I don't want to hurt them. And so that like anytime like some kind of fight or something would happen, in my mind I was just like, especially if like they actually physically hit me, and I was just like, that didn't hurt at all. Like they're very weak, and I was thinking to myself like, if I fucking hit them and beat them, like I could hurt them.
Yeah.
Because I know, because punching holes in walls and stuff, like that started when I was in fucking middle school. I was like, I don't want to be violent, but if I could go back in time, I would just fucking knock everyone out. I really would. I would just, because my dad taught me how to box when I was like in elementary school. So like I knew how to throw a punch, like I could fight, because me and my brother used to fucking put on it was funny, like my older sister would have like her friends over and stuff. Like
and you were just the entertainment.
They'd all get drunk or high and stuff. So we would set up like, all right, because we had boxing gloves. We got my mom to buy us. Like, all right, we're just gonna run in and start talking smack to each other, WWE style. Yeah. And we did. So we'd run in, fuck you, man. And then we'd start punching the shit out of each other, and we'd box. And he's 5 years older than me, so that was a big difference back when I was like 10 or whatever. So I get in all these circumstances, but if I could go back now, I would just beat the shit out of them and just be done with it. Mm-hmm. Because you beat the fuck out of one big kid.
And it's done, yeah.
Yeah, in front of everybody. It's over. Prison rules. Like, there's like, I'm going to leave that kid. Because that's what had happened in high school. I think a couple guys were fucking with me. Because by then I was playing like basketball, street basketball, because when AN1 was real big. So I was playing stuff like that all the time. And a couple guys were fucking with me. And I just fucking like one kid, I remember I just straight up fucking pimp slapped him. Like, I don't know why. I was just like, fucking bitch. And he didn't hit me back. And I was like, oh, sometimes violence works.
That's fucked up, but it's true.
It might get you canceled now and you lose all your Netflix specials like Will Smith. But not, like back then, it was fine. And then so after that, like nobody bothered me in high school and stuff. So
there's a time and place when it's appropriate.
Yeah, not at the Oscars. But so if I have one regret, it was not going back in time. And one, not doing that. And two, like you, I kind of always cared about, like, what did the teachers think of me? I was more timid because I was worried people were gonna think negatively.
They're just either like other students. Like I would have, I would have told somebody to like fuck off, like when I wanted to,
No, there were so many times. Like I was actually thinking about this the other day. there's so many times where like somebody would just be saying stupid shit to me, and I just want to be like, get a life.
Or
Like,
not even to like me. They would be like fucking with somebody else, and like you'd want to be like,
fucking leave them alone.
Yeah, but you don't, because then you don't want to turn down to you, so you just try to not like
when we worked at Walmart. It was maybe a year in where I started developing I don't give a fuck about any of these people. I don't care what they do in their home life. And you know what? If they say shit to me, I'm just going to be wild. Like, I'm just going to say some wild shit to them and be fucking, and then they leave me alone. And for some reason, for both of us, like, that just made people like us more.
It's weird, man.
Yeah, cuss them out and they just think it was funny. It was like, whatever. But now I also hit the other side of that now, where it's just like, I don't actually want to make people feel bad anymore. Like, I don't want to make fun of people. Because I was like, some of my fucking old fitness articles were going around. And like I said, those are all like satire things, but like a lot, they were like always douchey satire. So it'd be like, oh, fat people, blah, 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 or whatever. And like going back now, it's like, now, because those guys asked me to write for them, like every once in a while they email, hey, why don't you write some new articles? I was like, I just don't really want to be douchey anymore.
Yeah,
like I don't want to make fun of anybody.
I
don't want to
do that stuff. Yeah,
I don't want to make anybody feel bad. If you're a real cock knocker, I don't give a fuck about you. But like if like I keep seeing videos. Which I really like. This one guy, I think his name's like Joey Swole or something. He's a big dude.
Yeah, but the gym stuff.
Yeah, when people fucking record other people doing something in the gym or just try. Like there was one of those guys
trying to make fun of somebody.
It was just a heavier set guy was leaving the gym, and the guy played the Big Show's music. It's the Big Show, just being a douche. I'm just like, I never liked those things, honestly. But my younger me might have thought some of those were funny at least. Like, oh, the gym compilations of people like humping equipment and doing weird shit. But now I look at it, I'm just like, oh, he probably doesn't know what the fuck he's doing. Like, why is nobody helping? Why are you filming him? Go like, hey, don't do that, buddy. Like, do it this way. Like, so I think just as you get older, you go one of two ways. You either become, you get more empathy and you just kind of understand that people also have feelings like you do, and you don't, if you treat them badly, they're going to treat other people badly. It's, just vicious fucking like a pay it forward, but a bad version. But then there's also people who go the opposite way. They go more into themselves. They go more into I'm going to be a douche. I'm going to fucking shit on the world. And we know a lot of those kinds of people. But like the way I think about it is just try to, if you can, just ignore those people. Because I think about that all the time. Because I fucking drive for a living. I get into road rage incidents all the time. People flipping out and stuff. And there's so many times, like in my younger days, I'd be like, I'm just going to punch you in the face. Like in my 20s, I'd be like, I'm going to cuss you out or something. But now I'm just like, that guy's obviously having a bad day. He's having a worse day than me. Yeah. If that's possible, he's having a worse day than me. Just let him flick you off and go. Like, no need to fucking do anything. Again, if somebody physically tries to do something to you, handle that. But if people are just like, that's why like a younger me would have been like, yeah, fuck Chris Rock's talking shit about Will Smith's way. He smacks the fuck out. I'm good. That's what you get. But now I'm like, no, Will Smith was the douche. You don't hit somebody for a joke.
Yeah,
you talk to him afterward, like after the show, she'll be like, "Hey, that wasn't a funny joke."
Especially a very timid joke. Like I said, it wasn't like anything. He was basically saying that she looks good with no hair. Yeah,
but like just assuming, the hair thing was like a big deal for her because she has alopecia or whatever. All Will Smith had to do was like after the show, just like, "Hey, man, that wasn't cool." Like, and then Chris Rock probably would apologize. But I like the way Chris Rock handled the situation. He got slapped and he didn't fucking retaliate, and he almost wanted to. Like he saw, he said to himself, "I was like, ooh, I could say," and then he stopped himself. Like he was about to snap. I was like, "That bald headed bitch!" Like he was gonna freak out, but he didn't. And I fucking give him kudos for that. Like as an older man now, I was like, that's actually very hard to do. Is to just have no ego and just like you get slapped in front of the fucking world. That's humiliating. I don't care who you are. So, kudos to him.
Just imagine if people actually watched the Oscars.
Yeah, I didn't watch it. I saw it afterwards. So, but anyway.
We should probably wrap up, huh?
Yeah. Another takeaway from this episode, again, is the root of the fucking theme here is why. Ask these important questions. Why am I writing this? Why am I doing this? What is the point of this? Then you go into your characters. Why are my characters doing this? Why do they exist in this world? Why does this world exist if it's, some kind of other world? Like, just really break it down, and you'll find that opens more doors for you. Like, that really spreads, like, the seeds of your story, and they'll start to bloom in ways you wouldn't expect, versus if you just, like, I'm going to write this, and I'm just going to go to this point, and I'm not going to think about why I'm doing this. If you think why, that's why my stories, my novels just fucking blowing up is because I have a lot of whys and those make more whys. And now I'm like the little 5-year-old who can't stop asking you, why is the sky blue? Well, see the reflection of it. Why does it do that? And they're like, okay, this is going to go on for an hour. But we thank you for listening. You can check out our work, our fiction. We have spring submissions I've been posting, so check those out at drunkenpenwriting.com. You can go to Twitter and Facebook and Instagram. You can find it. Just go to the website. It's in there.
You know where to go, people.
And then you can go to Spencer's OnlyFans and be a little boring this week because he's the fucking Panama prickly pear. He's making fruit salad.
Yeah.
That's all. Nothing gross. Nothing gross this week. So thank you, and I don't care what anybody says. I've been digging the intro music and the outro music. I like it.
I like it.
I like it. We're a space podcast now. Over the weekend, sir, I watched the Lord of the Rings trilogy extended versions, 4 hours plus each Friday, Saturday, and Sunday night. And you know what? Those movies, while I definitely did not remember, I didn't even remember the endings properly. I thought he threw the shit in the fire, woke up, and Sam gives him the gay look, and that was it. No, there was like 10 different endings that follow.
I didn't say, even though because that was one of Kevin Smith's jokes. It was like it never ends. It has like 10 endings.
But like watching those movies, and I'm gonna get to my proper critique in a second, even though people don't probably fucking give a fuck after all this time. I just there was so much I forgot that happened. I definitely watched all three of them when I was young. But I didn't the whole middle movie. Did not remember anything from the middle movie. The first movie I only remembered certain scenes, and then the last movie I didn't remember most of that either. Definitely didn't remember any of the names. But having read Lord of the Rings before watching these now, or rewatching rather, because you know me, I don't mind adaptations.
Yeah.
I watch things and I'm like, oh, they made changes. That's fine, whatever. But for some reason, it just really irked me. I don't know if it's because I'm so fresh from reading the books and I go into it and I'm like, no, the character development's all wrong. I was getting, because they left out 2 major characters, but it doesn't really matter with the story that they were telling. Even some of the timeline shifts, but they definitely fucked up the one of the characters, which Faramore, they call him in the movie, the people who hate, I don't know if they hate the movies, but they call him Filmamore or something because he's the film version and he's real shitty in the movie. He's just not a good adaptation. They changed his character too much, but there was just enough changes where I was the book is just so much better. And then I just came to the conclusion, I know it's impossible to replicate the books exactly, but I feel like it has to be a series if they're going to do it and really extend it for season after season, because the books are so good that you're just not going to be able to put that into movie form.
No, but you figure with each movie being over 4 hours, though.
Yeah, but there's just certain things that didn't even make sense from a movie standpoint. Because watching it, I was very surprised where they just kind of jump into this pretty quickly. Oh, you're going to take the ring and you're going to do this and stuff. And Sam, who he's a representative of the Batman of World War I, which were pretty much the servants of the lieutenants and officers and stuff in the military. They just do whatever they want. That's what his character's supposed to be. But in the movie version, he's just a gardener, which he was the gardener in the book too. But they really, Tolkien really built up their relationship, him and Frodo, and why he cares so much about Frodo and why he wants to save him and stuff. In the movie version, they just kind of skipped that, and he's just okay, I'll just go risk my life for you for no real reason, just because the old guy told me to. And then, the most fucked up thing is they made him kind of gay in the movie. I don't know. In the books, it was kind of gay, because everything's kind of gay, merry, happy, but it was just, they did it in such a way where it was are they going to, have a romantic thing? Is that okay? But then, they don't.
Frodo and Sam? Or
yeah, Frodo and Sam. I know that's the big joke.
Yeah.
But, in the movies, it just made it seem, way gayer than it should. Because in the books, they're supposed to technically be boys. Even though I think they're in their 20s or 30s, and the hobbits,
but they grow different. They're kind of like Yoda almost.
In in your 20s and 30s as a hobbit, I think you're maybe preteen or even maybe regular teen, but you're you're young. It's just I know it wasn't Peter Jackson's intent to make them with all the looks and the slow, because there's a lot of just Randall and Clark says, the gay look.
Yeah.
There's just a lot of that. And it's just why are they looking at each other so long?
A lot of glazing at each other.
Just gazing, and glazing is a little bit different.
Yeah.
Yes,
that's when they get back to the Shire.
Yeah. And the major scene they did in the movie that really it really irked me was in the book when Frodo he gets bit by the big spider. Well, in the movie, him and Sam have a big fight, and then because Gollum sets it up to make Frodo think Sam is betraying him. So he leaves Sam a crying, blubbering mess and goes into this fucking tunnel, gets bit by a spider, whatever. And then Sam comes to the rescue. But in the book version, Sam doesn't leave him. Sam's with him the whole time because he's the actual hero. And in the book, when Frodo gets bit by the spider, Sam fucking fucks that spider up. No fucking human, nothing. No elves, dwarves, nobody's ever killed a spider. He fucks that spider right up the fucking middle of the gut with his knife. So Frodo, he thinks Frodo died, and then he's like, he has this big dilemma. What do I do? How do I go on? And he's like, I gotta take the ring then. Fuck it. I'm taking the ring. I'm gonna go up the mountain. I have to finish it. So he's the hero. But in the movie, they want to have a big surprise that he has the ring, so they skip that whole part. So Frodo, because eventually gets taken by the orcs into the tower, and Sam has to go save him, and he goes up and he does this heroic thing and he saves him, and then Frodo's like, they took the ring, and he's like, haha, no they didn't, I have it. But in the books,
you see that.
Well, in the books, Sam took the ring initially because he was going to go, fucking up the mountain. And then he heard the orc say that Frodo wasn't dead. And he's like, I could save Frodo. And he puts the fucking ring on, turns invisible, does all the shit. And the ring does not corrupt him. In the movie, he's hesitant to give the ring back to Frodo. And he's like, Sam was the one ring bearer who was not corruptible, in my opinion. At least not yet. If he wore it longer, probably. But they just really took out a cool scene, in my opinion, just to have that little shock value of having the audience think that, the ring, the orcs got it. The orcs clearly didn't get it. If they got him, they would have killed the fucking Hobbit.
Which is so weird because I'd assume, when these movies were first coming out, the people who were coming to glamour and see it, they knew that.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? So it's why you get, who are you surprising?
Yeah. Yeah, exactly. So I don't know. I mean, I get you have to take artistic liberties, but I just felt like there were certain... that scene, it wouldn't have been any longer or shorter if they just did it the way the book did it. And it would have showed Sam as more of a hero than he was. Because in the book, in the movie version, when he goes to save Frodo, he just kind of bumbling through and the orcs kill each other. In the book, they kill each other, but he still had to be invisible and do all this shit to get there. So 6 out of 10 maybe for the movie. Return of the King, I'll give that a higher one. That was a fucking good movie.
How did the graphics hold up?
Pretty good. I thought they were pretty good. Of course, I watched The Hobbit before that, a couple months ago. I got the DVDs of that, and that fucking graphics were shit. I don't know if it was just because it was a $10 DVD of all 3 of them or whatnot, but it was it looked like dog shit. But the Lord of the Rings movies, they hold up pretty good. And the like I said, Return of the King, other than a couple plot points, it was a solid movie. That was a good movie. And even the 50 endings, I'm like, yeah, look, yeah, I was excited.
Give them to me all.
Though they did change the whole ending of the movie. Or they changed the whole ending from the book to the movie, because in the movie, they just go back to the Shire and everything's hunky-dory, and then Frodo sails off in his merry little adventure. But in the book, Saruman wasn't dead yet, and he goes and fucking raises the Shire and makes it this shitty work camp place, and everybody's miserable, and those hobbits have to go back, and it's almost like a whole nother adventure. They have to save the Shire. And then Saruman gets his throat slit, and it's gory, and all this shit happens. But they didn't do that in the movie. They just, that's more of a time constraint, I think, because that was
that probably would have been a whole nother movie.
Yeah, that was a lot of stuff. But that's my breakdown. And since this is a 21-minute cold open, I'm probably going to break this in half and have this as the outro, an extra outro.
There you go.
I think that's a good idea.